Hey guys, today we're digging a little deeper into the problems of our current state of reality. The only thing that we ask is that you come into this with an open mind. This podcast is for anyone who has started to ask questions about reality and has realized that there's too many things that aren't adding up. Today we're going to discuss the major issues concerning things that are affecting us right now, as well as past and future generations of the human race. We'll be
Oh
talking
yeah.
about the major issues of our society, the limitations of our education systems, as well as the purpose of the government, politics, and religion.
Oh yeah. We're diving deep today, guys.
We're covering everything,
Oh
aren't we?
yeah. Oh yeah. We are definitely going after it today, and I couldn't imagine bringing a better guest with us today than Ken Walker. How are you doing, buddy? And I'm so
You are
excited
you,
for this.
you're giving me way more credit than I'm due. Wait until after the discussion to start complimenting, brother. But
No.
I'm doing great. I really appreciate the invite, and it's been awesome getting to know kind of you guys through the Quora platform and
Yeah.
listening to your first podcast. And I'm really excited to be a part of this. So thanks
Yeah.
for having me on.
Cora's bringing the people together, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as a matter of fact, my kind of like dive into spirituality and self inquiry started with just a random interaction with somebody on Quora a couple of
Wow.
years ago. So yeah,
That's
believe it or
interesting.
not, like it's pretty incredible.
You know, it's funny. Everybody hates on me for using Quora because it. There's this thing. It's like it's Quora versus Reddit, and I'm just like, guys,
Yeah.
it's not even close. Like, it's not even close. All right, so
Everybody's got their favorites.
yeah, but I think a good place to start this is just by simply stating humanity is going through some shit, guys.
Oh yeah,
I think
dude.
we can all
Yeah,
agree.
it's 2020. If you fall asleep this year, you're gonna miss some crazy stuff. So
Exactly.
it's
And
absolute total insanity, and nobody has any idea what's coming next.
right,
I think pretty much summarizes it.
right, and for the people who aren't as aware and like, awake as people like us, like all they see is chaos, right?
Yeah.
But for us, we're seeing the things going on behind the scenes, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, like questioning, analyzing what's
Right.
actually happening.
And to me, like amidst all of this chaos, I'm seeing a lot of good happening from all of this, and you know, from the COVID pandemic to the Black Lives Matter situation, it looks like a lot of chaos, but those two events have been waking a lot of people up. But I think one of the major issues regarding this awakening is that the vast majority of people who are waking up are they're at that surface level where they can feel that there's something wrong, right? They can kind of feel like, okay, something's definitely wrong with society, but they're not getting what the problem is. So, in your guys' estimation, what do you think are some of the major issues that we aren't getting as a society, and what should we be focusing on and learning more about? I have my own answers, but I really want to hear your guys' thoughts on this.
I think personally, I think it's a lot of people are kind of just accepting that the way that their reality is just the way that it is, and they don't think that it could be different. I think it's like
Yeah.
when you grow up, like having, like knowing how everything is, you get comfortable in that, and you don't want to, I don't know, like expand on anything. Like I have a friend that's very by the book, like she's super Christian, plans to like just go to school and kind of like live her life the way that she thinks she's supposed to live her life. And anytime I try to talk to her about anything that's not about any of that, she like freaks out and she's like, I don't like that, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Mhm. You're challenging our comfort zones, and that's tough for people. That's
It is.
so many of the whether it's a long existing spiritual or religious tradition, or even like some of the newer type of either channeled information or some of the newer metaphysical or spiritual speakers that are on the scene now. Like I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Sadhguru or Rupert Spear or Adyashanti, all these guys that are out talking and gathering audiences now. They refer to the present state of reality, or this three-dimensional reality, as the dream state, right? This illusory state.
Yep.
And so I think what you're talking about, August and Phaedra, what you kind of alluded to as well, is we're in this place right now where the alarm clock is starting to go off, if you will, if we relate this to a sleep or dreaming state. The alarm clock is buzzing. It's making these annoying sounds. People are kind of just now starting to, in a lot of cases, like shuffle and rustle out of their comfortable, uninterrupted dream, but they don't yet, they haven't opened their eyes yet, and they haven't identified kind of what is the source of that annoying sound. Why is it bothering me? And what do I do in response to it? Like, what do I even begin to do? They've never been in this awakened state, and most of them don't even understand that it even exists. So we're in this kind of really interesting period now where those who have done the intellectual learning and kind of gotten into the study of either even conspiracy theories or spirituality or any of these kind of truth-seeking behaviors are understanding kind of the intellectual and the framework aspect of it, so they kind of know what's going on behind the scenes and what's maybe coming forward in the next 10, 15, 20 years for us, as best as we can guess, right? But that's like less than 1% of society right now. So it's like it's almost like you're living in two worlds. You kind of like, you understand things are going on a certain way yourself, and you kind of understand, all right, it's going to be difficult for a while. There's going to be challenges. It's going to be tumultuous, but at least I understand kind of the framework and where this is headed. But for most people, it's like, it's going to be chaotic, man.
Yeah, and I mean, we're witnessing such a great unraveling, aren't we? And unfortunately for a lot of people, they're not ready for it. They just don't understand like what exactly is happening, especially behind the scenes. And I think for me personally, definitely one of the major issues is that people need to understand that there are forces in power who have such a grip on humanity, and they get to decide what humanity gets to experience as a race. And this leads to my next question, where whenever you try to talk to people about these groups of controllers, these entities, you're always met immediately with, oh, you're just a crazy conspiracy theorist, like someone get him his tinfoil hat, right? How do we get past this perception of just being a crazy conspiracy theorist, and how do we get this onto a global scale to where everybody can agree, yes, there are forces in power who don't have humanity's best interest in mind, and that there is a lot of method to the madness, so to speak?
I would say get comfortable being called crazy for a while. And honestly, like with any like major change historically, if you look back, the first individual to have an insight or a realization or an idea that is a major shift from the current paradigm is always called insane or crazy or ostracized from society in some way. And so, I mean, and this is nothing new. This goes back to like even pre-civilization, like tribal times. So that's the nature of significant change in the human paradigm, where we're very comfortable, much more comfortable staying in, with the way things are, and rather than moving into the new. But it goes through phases. So you go through this period where the new idea seems insane, and then there starts to become this like observational experience and proof. Like there will start to be proofs that come out that not only show the controlling aspect of the individuals and the elites, if you will, that you're talking about, but also the proofs that show that this increase in conscious awareness, and oh, by the way, the abilities individually and collectively that come along with that increase in awareness, which include things like, psychic abilities and clairvoyance, clairaudience, potentially like telekinesis, and these kind of things that people have always attributed to like things like witchcraft. They've demonized these types of abilities. Well, guess what? People are going to start springing up in society more and more often with the ability to do things that we've always thought were fairy tale magic. And only when that starts happening, and those people that are so comfortable in their prove to me or materialistic type paradigm of everything has to be observed by the five senses and measured in order to be believed, guess what? It's coming. And when that happens, then the widespread acceptance is going to start to slowly catch on, and that's when things don't seem so insane anymore.
Right.
But that may be, that may be years, it may be decades. Who knows what kind of time frame we're looking at there? And so,
what I was going to add was, I think a lot of people are being held back by like science and stuff, and how, I mean, like we have a lot of, like, I feel like anytime someone starts asking questions about like our reality and stuff, there's always like answers through like psychology, biology,
Right.
evolution,
mm-hmm.
and like, oh, like someone might say they have like visions, and then someone saying, oh, well, that's a hallucination, he's probably schizophrenic, throw him
Exactly.
away.
Yeah.
Like there's always like some type of like
Scientific answer.
Yeah. Or like
Sure.
someone could be like,
Rational
well, that's just like
explanation.
placebo effect. Like he believes that's true, so it's true.
Yeah.
So I think people need to, there's like some things that aren't even close to fall in line with science that aren't explained,
Yeah.
and then we just have to figure out, like, we have to find a way to see through that.
There's
people to see through that.
There's a doctor, David Hawkins, a psychologist, that he passed away about 7 or 8 years or so ago, but he put together a series of works that basically outlined what he called the scale of consciousness. So essentially from the lowest level to the highest level of spiritual enlightenment, he actually developed a 1,000-point scale to kind of show how individuals, including like those that we see as the great prophets and sages and saints throughout history, where they sit on that scale, his own hypothetical or theoretical scale, but also more importantly, the processes and the practices that are necessary to go through to increase one's place on that conscious scale. And what he said about science, exactly what Phaedra's talking about, is that particular aspect and that belief system, the
Right.
scientific materialistic belief system, is the most difficult part on that scale to overcome. Like it's even harder than the religious nature of belief, because it relies on sensory proof in order to build any type of faith or belief in the way things work. So
If it's
it's going to be
if you can't see it or touch it, it's not science. And,
absolutely right now anyway.
Yeah, totally. And for people who are in the know, we understand that a lot of the truth of our reality is non-physical.
Most of it, I think.
Most of it. I would say like 99% of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I understand reality is our entire physical universe existence is just a drop in an ocean of universes and realities. And
I've heard it portrayed as the tip of the iceberg. Like we literally are just looking at the very tip of what is being caused as a result of all of these underlying energies that we're just now starting to tap into.
Exactly. And even science itself has already proven that our physical reality is just a small percentage of what's really out there. And so the analogy I like to use is like, for using mainstream material science as the only method of discovering our reality, it's like only using a hammer to build the Eiffel State Tower. You're never going to build the Eiffel State Tower with just a hammer.
Yeah.
It's not possible. And so I think that's one of the major issues with us viewing alternative science as not real science, because it definitely is. There are so many repeatable studies on telepathy and all other kinds of metaphysical science, and everybody's under this spell, this illusion. If it's not physical, it's not real. And it's interesting because it's almost these material scientists and material-minded people are so steadfast and like they're clinging onto that belief so heavily. It's almost like it's a religious belief, you know? It's like, what's the difference between them and religion? They're holding so tightly onto that limited mind frame, this limited belief that's holding them back. And
it is a dogmatic system, just like religion, but there's definite reasons for it. Some of them similar to religion, like the profit motive and the control motive. But the other aspect of it is, it's like this is an institution that we can look back, just over the last 200 or 300 years. So if we're talking about science, material science specifically, from the time like Newtonian physics was initiated. Has become an institution, like in itself. It is an institution, and so it's developed the all the same types of organized framework and rule sets and everything, that if you give up on that or you allow that to be expanded beyond the realm of measurable, then they have to release control and power and authority over that institution. So I get it. Like, I understand why it's just like the Catholic Church. Like, they don't want to let go of control or power. That's human nature. We like to be in charge, right? And like to have power. But ultimately, I don't think that is going to stop the progress. I think what's going to happen is the open-minded individuals are going to make the discoveries and are going to then expose that to the world, and then science is going to catch up later on.
I feel like the day science does catch up to metaphysics and the greater reality, I think then we'll make true strides in technological advancement and consciousness advancement, right? Like,
infinite potential, brother. Totally limitless. Like, that's what all these I don't know if you guys get into like channeled books or some of the channeling speakers that are out there on the public circuit now, but pretty consistently the feedback that they're getting from what are generally labeled like higher conscious entities or extra dimensional entities or what have you. I know this is a stretch in logic and belief for a lot of people, but hey, we're just going to talk about it, right? Yeah. So is that science is again, as you kind of said, is only in its infancy on this planet right now. And as we start to grow and understand energy and ourselves as energy beings and this planet as an energetic entity in itself, and by the way, conscious entity, not just a ball of rock. I was about to say that. And start to integrate those energies into the mind, the actual individual human mind, actually being able to develop and manipulate what we currently term as physical matter or material matter. Again, the sky's the limit. Like, we can't even sit here and imagine the types of technologies and capabilities that we're going to be able to grow and develop as that becomes more mainstream.
Just so frustrating how humanity is just kept in this tiny little box. We haven't even opened this box yet. And everybody's stuck in this mindset that this box is all it is. Like, this is it. Yeah. And there's nothing else outside of this. There is no box. Like, this is everything. And it's so not true. Like, we haven't even begun to see what's outside of this box, and it's just so frustrating.
Well, it's like from even like a small age, everyone. I'm younger, so I can kind of relate to this more, I guess. But like, I was always like, to this day, I'm still trying to figure out like, what kind of job do I want? What kind of job? Like, where do I see myself in 10 years? Like, what job do I want? When it's like, why? Like, there's limitless possibilities. Like, we should be in like inventing things, like doing, like exploring, like going places. Like, why are we so, we're so like, I don't know how to explain this.
We need to be asking questions. We need to be questioning reality.
Well, so here's the reality. I think of it is you guys are at your place in time in this society right now are the philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome. Believe it or not, like, you are the only ones right now, not just you two specifically, but the very small percentage of people in your age group are the ones who are posing those hard questions and are deconstructing the illusion of our present reality. Right. So get comfortable with that role and that label. I'm not saying you're going to be employed in that capacity or that's how you're going to make your living, but if you find that attractive and alluring and something that you want to go for right now, as far as, again, questioning the deeper nature of reality, like, that's how you're going to be perceived, is in that kind of sense. That's the potential, is you are going to be perceived kind of in the same light as, you think back to like Socrates and Plato and all Aristotle and all the guys that changed society and the way that we look at, the fundamental nature of humanity and government and politics and economics. Like, that's what's happening right now. Is a very small percentage of people are starting to to question literally everything in the hopes that we can come up with something that isn't like what we have right now.
Right. Because people like us understand that this isn't everything, and a lot of what we're told isn't true reality. Everybody's just under this spell. That's why I started writing and interested in doing podcasts like this, because we're trying to break this spell that humanity's under.
There's a reason though that only a few awaken to it first, and then the light expands, if you will, as things go forward. That's a longer discussion in itself, but it's purposeful. This is the way that planets and civilizations, if you will, supposedly. This is me echoing sentiment from various other sources, but.
Right.
This is not unique to Earth by any means. This is the way that civilizations evolve, and you're right. It is frustrating, kind of for those at the leading edge, but just recognize that it is purposeful, and all your efforts are not going to be for nothing.
Well, I hope so. And
me trying to explain this to my parents. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have a podcast where I talk about spirituality, the government, politics. My mom's like, that sounds like very controversial things. Do not talk about.
Don't let them shut you down, Pedro.
Yeah, for real. It's so funny. She told me whenever she walks in the room with her mom, her mom's like, no, not today. We're not talking today. It's not happening.
That's so funny. I've seen something that says that those that are waking up essentially are put in the families and the friend groups that they are for a very specific reason, so that you may be frustrated about the fact that nobody else around you in your physical presence is understanding or accepting or interested, but you're there to essentially be that way shower or that source of light for them. So
that was something I've had to wrestle with for so long, and finally come to an understanding, because I'm exactly in that position. No one in my family is even close to being on this level of consciousness, and whenever I try to open up to them as well, it's just like, oh, okay, here he goes again. Like, whatever, August, great. Let's keep hating Trump now. Let's go back to fucking hating on Trump and talking about politics. And
we can't force anybody, right? All we can do is continue our search and become what we're going to become, and hope that they see that example and choose at some point in the near or perhaps distant future to follow some of it.
Right.
But we can't force anybody to change. Like, the nature of free will is universal. That applies to every sentient being throughout all of creation. So we do not have the ability to purposely or negatively override an individual's free will.
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
What I do now with my friends and family is I'll plant little seeds here and there.
There you go.
I'll ask a little question that'll get them thinking, and I'll say a statement that'll just get them, okay, like, that's interesting, and then I'll leave it at that. And like,
you're creating more change than you realize just by doing that.
Right. So one of the major issues I see that's creating this situation, I think a lot of it stems from our educational system. I believe we aren't being taught all of the necessary things that we should be taught about. I mean, we don't learn about spirituality or metaphysics or the greater reality of existence, and the masses don't even know the greater reality exists.
Yeah.
How much is our current educational system affecting generation after generation of people in how we get to perceive and understand our reality?
I think
it's... go ahead, Fader.
So a lot of school systems nowadays are taking away, like, the arts. Like, they're not funding the arts, which is full of like creativity and stuff, and helping kids, think outside the box.
Yeah, they see it as a waste.
I think just taking away the arts in general is like causing people to just think, like, in straight lines. Like, they're not able to, really consider other types of ways of living. I also made some notes that I think I like lately I've been kind of considering things that probably could have been useful to learn about, and I was thinking, like, maybe learning about how, like, our senses better, like how to really, like, max out how much we can use our senses, like other than sight, because we do rely on sight a lot. But I think with hearing, like, if we, like, continue to, like, try to work towards using our senses, it would, and maybe helping our physical health and stuff, like, or evolutionary growth and stuff. But I think right now we're getting so lazy with everything with like our technology, and everyone's kind of just sitting on their asses and just watching like TV all the time. Like I don't think anyone's really considering how much.
Don't get me started on TV.
Yeah,
Well, there's a reason why they call it TV programs, right? Just to program
absolutely.
your mind.
Yeah.
Well, and then another thing was I was sitting outside my house one day and I was listening to birds just like chirping and stuff, and I was thinking, I'm like, you know, the human race is like very unique in a way that we can mimic noises and we can mimic like other animals and stuff, and we should be able to communicate with animals, I think. If not by now, but like
Yes.
next couple of centuries or something. If we work towards it, you know, like
Yeah.
we should be able to understand animals and be able to communicate with them.
I mean, I believe there are highly intuitive and telepathic people now
Yeah,
who can have
absolutely.
telepathic communication with
There
animals.
are classes here in the UK, as a matter of fact, for folks to actually learn that animal or nature-based spiritual connection
Yes.
for increasing communication. So
Wait, that's awesome. That's a thing over there? Holy shit. Yo, you guys in the UK,
I don't think it's very popular, but
No,
I think it's
looking at my analytics from my writing on Quora, a lot of my followers are from the UK, and
yeah. The UK is kind of from a religious and acceptance standpoint. I would say more merged into the atheistic and or agnostic and or just universal acceptance much sooner than the U.S. has.
Oh, yeah,
The
much
U.S.
sooner.
I think is still very slow to go through that maturation process, in my opinion.
It's because the programming and the indoctrination, it's so bad over here. It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating too. And that,
Well, I think, and so that to your original question on why isn't this stuff that we now understand and know to be truer than what we've been taught? Why isn't it anywhere in our educational system?
Yes.
And I think the framework is we were founded specifically as a Christian nation, and so even though we purport ourselves to be universally accepting of all practices and religions, in reality, that's not the way that we actually operate. And that includes with regard to the subject matter and the information that's passed on to our kids in our educational system. You know, there's several examples. We've even had we've had Indian gurus or sages come over to the United States with huge followings. We've had like Yogananda, Ramana Maharishi, Osho in the even as recently as like the 80s and 90s time frame.
Yeah.
And generally what happens is these guys come over and they find a following. Like there's plenty of interested Americans, if you will, who want to learn about higher spiritual truth, and they join the movement, if you will. You know, those outside the movement generally refer to them as cults or what have you. But it's not that there aren't interested people. It's just that the acceptability with integrating that information into our existing system architecture has always met with very strong resistance.
exactly.
Yeah, and it still does to this day.
People in the U.S., they're so hostile too, and it's never it's hard to find someone who's open to even discuss these kind of things.
Well, if you look back to I think I remember you saying in your last podcast that you have a Christian upbringing, right?
Yeah.
So if you look back to what is at least purported by Christianity as the highest enlightened man that ever walked the face of the planet, he came in at a time and tried to instruct in a time when he got exactly the same response that you're talking about.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
the Hebrews, the Judaic religion of the day, looked at his teachings and said, that's insane. There's no way that
Right.
God is, or love is, or the kingdom of heaven is inside a man, or what have you. So
Right.
he was treated with hostility and violence, and ultimately led to his death in the same exact way that you're talking about. Now, it's hopefully not as violent or aggressive a response today as what we're talking about, but the underlying response and energy that is behind even that same type of situation 2,000 years ago has not changed.
I get met with hostility a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people get angry with me and they say the nastiest things. But luckily, I mean, just looking at how people respond to some of this information, this awakening is really happening, and way more people are open and accepting than I was ever expecting before I started writing.
Yeah.
So it is a beautiful thing.
Minds will be changed slowly, but as they
Yes.
change, I think what's going to occur is kind of like the snowball effect. Is it seems like it's very small and moving slowly now,
Yeah.
but where there's going to be a time where we look at the momentum and go, holy crap, where did that come from?
Right. And I'm just happy to contribute to it.
Yeah,
It makes me feel good that we can do something. And
without a doubt.
not enough people are, and so I'm hoping podcasts like this and groups like ours, we can inspire others to question things and voice their opinions and just stop sticking to the status quo, because the status quo is what got humanity here, and humanity is not in a good state right now, and it's going to take people like us to wake us up from this.
Minds will be changed slowly, but as they
Yes.
change, I think what's going to occur is kind of like the snowball effect. Is it seems like it's very small and moving slowly now,
Yeah.
but where there's going to be a time where we look at the momentum and go, holy crap, where did that come from?
Right. And I'm just happy to contribute to it.
Yeah,
It makes me feel good that we can do something. And
without a doubt.
not enough people are, and so I'm hoping podcasts like this and groups like ours, we can inspire others to question things and voice their opinions and just stop sticking to the status quo, because the status quo is what got humanity here, and humanity is not in a good state right now, and it's going to take people like us to wake us up from this. And
Well, and I think so many are looking at the circumstances of today's events as tumultuous and chaotic and negative, and they are. I mean, given our definitions of those terms,
Right.
but we need to, from a kind of higher reality, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, perspective, understand that these are the catalysts that are going to be necessary
Right.
to jostle many folks awake. Like you didn't take that. Phaedra didn't need that necessarily, but there are people today that they just haven't gotten to that place of discomfort in their existential reality where they're ready to jump into something new. So,
Right.
so the chaos is difficult and challenging, but it's absolutely necessary.
all the chaos, we're like a butterfly in the cocoon, right? Like at the end
Yeah.
at the end of it, it's something so beautiful, and I'm looking forward to it. I can see it happen. I visualize it every day. New Earth now, new Earth now.
Yeah. Just that mental visualization, dude, makes so much difference to any type of like positive focus in a time of difficulty or
Right, exactly.
negativity makes a big difference.
Yeah, and people aren't getting how powerful we are in consciousness. Our thoughts are literally energy, and it doesn't just exist in our head. When we think something, it sends out this energy vibration that adds to the collective consciousness of humanity. People need to understand who and what we are. We aren't just humans.
I think there's a good reason so many gravitate to things like the Star Wars series, talking about using the Force and that kind of thing. You know,
yes.
Like people know at their core, they have this sense that these types of abilities and that type of thing exist, but they're scared to just outright come out and say that they believe that they do, so they can express that belief in a fictional movie. You know?
I think a lot of these sci-fi movies and worlds, they're being drawn from their subconscious memories, and they don't even know that. You know,
oh yeah.
They have no idea, but
yeah,
deep down,
with like thought and stuff, it's like you okay, it's hard to like get original thoughts. Usually it's from something, like you get it.
True.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah, we're
100%.
all pulling from the collective consciousness as well as higher realities beyond Earth's consciousness.
Yes,
So, to say that there are no new thoughts, I'm not sure whether or not that's the case. It seems to me that creation is infinite and ever expanding. So that to me would include the nature of thought as well. But I also think that we are absolutely tapped into every other atom and every other being in the entire creation of existence. So it stands to reason we would be pulling some information from them as well.
Right. To expand on what Phaedra was saying, see, these forces in power know about our power and consciousness, and they figure out very clever ways to control our subconscious in a way to where we are thinking their thoughts and we are manifesting the reality they want, through media, through education, through science, through everything. And they found ways to cleverly program us and to get us thinking what they want us to think. instead
just
of
distraction.
distraction.
That's all all they have to do is just keep you distracted. Not even
Exactly.
Doesn't even have to be on necessarily negative or low energy type things, but certainly that helps, I guess, from their standpoint.
Taking this to spiritual aspects, in your estimation, what is the difference between religion and spirituality?
Oh wow, what a big question, dude.
Yeah. I just thought of that and I was like, oh, I want to hear his answer to this.
That's a good one. So I guess here's how I would couch that. How we were talking a little bit before about the evolution of consciousness, right? The notion that an individual can actually evolve not just their knowledge in one physical incarnation, but their actual scope and capacity of awareness, right? That is not a commonly understood or articulated viewpoint within the modern scientific or medical or psychological community. But as we start to accept that to me is what the overlay of spirituality is founded on just that developmental aspect, that we are here to learn and mature and grow and develop, and essentially, as I think the way you put it in your last podcast, is we are men and women becoming God or gods, yes. Essentially, as controversial as that may seem to a lot of folks that adhere to a different idea of what the God or the deity is. That's what we're here to do, folks. Exactly. So get comfortable with it, because that's where we're going. Yeah. And if you're not, start looking into it, because that's what this is all about. Yeah, totally. Religion is to me the series of rules, guidelines, architectures, traditions, etc., that are developed as a result of generally one enlightened being reaching certain types of realization or understanding within the context of a specific culture or nation or community, and trying to relay as best they can those concepts to the people of the day. Right. What happens, unfortunately, though, is that religion gets not only does it get manipulated and significantly changed over time. Like, right. we can not to keep picking on Christianity, but we can look at Christianity. We can actually find where it still has elements of Judaism, it has elements of paganism, it has elements of the Hellenic religious traditions, Roman religion. So there's like 5 or 6 different religious practices, all that have kind of become this hybrid that now we're saying are all the teachings of one individual man, and that's just simply not the case. Right. So I think, unfortunately, what happens is they get, from a standpoint of religion, is they get codified into this system of beliefs that then people cling to, and then as soon as you do that, you stop advancing, you stop developing. As soon as you say, these are my beliefs and nothing can challenge these beliefs, you no longer evolve on the developmental scale
it's another box.
Yeah, that's right. So the two can overlap. Like one can be religious and spiritual, or one can practice religious tradition and still be an evolving and developing spiritual being. But unfortunately, I think right now, those that are doing, exactly that are probably in the minority.
We mentioned just a second ago how spirituality, other than religion, is really just stepping into your true divinity. You're one with all that is. And people label people who see that as new age spirituality, but this is true spirituality, and this spirituality has existed long before religion ever became a thing.
You look back to like teachings in ancient Egypt, and this is you can extract these same types of concepts 5 and 6 and 7,000 years ago. And now it's being called New Age. This stuff is not New Age. Exactly. The Mayans practiced it, the Incas practiced it, the Native Americans and the Australian Aboriginals have been practicing this stuff for thousands of years. Absolutely. Yet we look at it now, because we've had this overlay of very codified and specific beliefs that are challenged by this information, and we look at it now and go, oh, this is new and different.
Right,
exactly. Only to our infantile minds.
But yeah, this has existed forever, and I'm hoping it's going to be the snowball effect, and I see it happening, and it's such a wonderful thing, and I hope the rest of the world will catch up to us soon.
I think, like we were talking about before the show today, it's just going to be a matter of getting to the point where these conversations are natural and easy, and not so focused on like the esoteric or metaphysical type principles. We've got to bring the discussion into the common lingo and the common, you on social media, and using Quora as a platform, and this podcast. All those types of things are exactly how this is going to happen. So you're both of you guys are in the right time in the right place and doing the right things to make it happen.
I was going to say, I think a lot of it is just kind of reasoning with people, like getting them to realize that like the way that they're living is not the way that they have to live.
Yeah, just introducing an option, really, just saying, look, have you ever even thought about the possibility that there may be more, there's other higher level experience that you could be having.
Right. And it's all about expanding consciousness, right? Everybody is so willing to stick to what they know and stick to their lane, and they're like horse blinders, right? They're just gotta go to work, gotta go to church, gotta do this, but they don't want to look at anything else. They don't want to see anything else, and
just that word alone is scary. I think consciousness, because people don't. I mean, they think of it and they go, okay, well, consciousness is just when I'm, they think of it maybe in terms of when I go to the doctor or dentist and I'm unconscious, right? Or if I drink too much or take a lot of drugs, then I change my state of consciousness, that kind of thing. But that's about as far as probably the majority of folks on this planet right now can really conceptualize what consciousness really is. And even within scientific contexts, we've known for over 100 years that conscious observation of a subatomic experiment changes the outcome of the experiment. But yet, when you listen to modern, current day astrophysicists and physicists and astro engineers, the folks that are doing the experimentation and the research on those very same subjects, they don't talk about consciousness at all. Like there is no discussion about or experimentation that I can find that is extensive and publicly broadcast about how the mind influences our reality. Yeah. It's just not there. They're, and I don't know if that's fear, or I don't know if it's the fact that they're not being sponsored by the right commercial entities or corporate institutions that fund
the latter.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
for
probably
sure.
So.
There's a show on Netflix called The OA. It's like a fictional TV series.
I've seen a couple of them.
Yeah. It they talk about one of the main characters is trying to figure out what consciousness is, and trying to what's it called, the near-death experiences, studies near-death experiences. And I think that just watching that show helped me kind of consider or question consciousness and figure out maybe what consciousness means to me. And I know that show actually got canceled, which I thought was kind of interesting.
It's getting too close.
It is. Too close to the truth. But I do think it's encouraging to see how many new TV shows and movies and how much is now coming out that really does kind of touch on those concepts and those subjects. The whole the Matrix series I know is even still popular and widely discussed within reality or truth-seeking type circles, because it is probably so much more, in my opinion, closely aligned to the way that reality really works than this hard physical separated reality that we've been brought up in. So it's great to see those things, like movies like Inception and Avatar and all those ones that are talking about using consciousness to do more than we know we can right now, or transferring consciousness to another entity or being. I mean, look, these are very difficult topics for a lot of people to understand or accept, but bringing them into the popular culture, I think, is definitely going to be one avenue that's going to happen.
Right. There's a lot of disclosure in the Matrix, a lot of disclosure in the Matrix. People don't want to admit how real a lot of that actually is.
Yeah, it's a pretty enlightened look, I think, at how things are really structured.
I love how there are people in power who do want to expand people's consciousness and wake people up, if you will, and movies and TV shows are definitely an avenue they use to do that.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful thing in itself. And
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a battle going on both sides, the light and the dark, if you want to see it
Exactly.
that way. And
Exactly.
certainly there are people in media and in government and what have you that are fighting for the force of good, if you will, as well.
Right.
So we can't necessarily say that everybody in that those infrastructures are on the bad side, if you will.